Why don't you?
I needed money 'cause I had none. I fought the law and the law won. I fought the law and the law won.
You can try fighting the law all you want, but the law is always going to win. From politicians and celebrities to sports figures and business leaders, they're fighting the law. Now, here to sort out the nation's top legal news stories is America's favorite legal analyst, Royal Oakes. This is the Royal Oakes Show.
Robbing people with a 6-gun. I fought the law and the law won. I fought the law and the law won.
Thank you, Mike Horn, and welcome to the Royal Oakes Show. And welcome to our co-host, Ken Jeffries.
Hello there.
How you doing, Ken?
Okay.
Good, good. Our millennial correspondent, Connor Oakes, is on special assignment yet again.
He's incognito.
Yeah.
That's a town outside
Incognito's a beautiful
That's outside
place.
of Birmingham, isn't it?
Something
whatever.
like that. So Connor will rejoin us next week, but for right now, we're just gonna
I actually
muddle.
have us up on a delay on Facebook.
This
Live.
just in. That's pretty exciting.
So let me turn us down.
It's like when the radio talk show host says to the caller, "Now please turn your radio down," and the caller,
you've done some of that.
Cleverly, the caller says, "Oh yeah, first-time listener, long-time caller," which of course puts the host off of his game. So we've
First
got
time, long time. Is that what they always say?
yeah. There's some callers.
Okay,
are
so on
clever that
Facebook
way.
Live, we're on a little bit of a delay.
That's okay. We can live with that. So we got a bunch of top stories tonight here. They said it's the Royal Oakes Show. No, it's the Robert Mueller Show. Mueller is just in control. He's going full steam ahead. You were talking off the air how Trump is trying to put a good spin on it. He's saying, "Oh well, I'm in the clear."
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Well, he said. Well, and he referred to himself in the third person. Oh, the president is in the clear.
People like to do that.
Yeah.
So probably the top story is what Mueller's up to, because we've got sentencing memos. You got big positions on the three big guys. You got Michael Cohen. You got General Flynn, and of course you got Paul Manafort.
Right.
We're also going to be talking about a new Attorney General nomination by Trump, a fellow named William Barr, who actually was Attorney General for George Herbert Walker Bush back in the early 90s.
But what about the guy who temporarily has the job? Did he think he'd have the job?
Well, I think he feels like he's chopped liver, because he's not going to get the real big job. He was not he was deputy, head of staff for Sessions.
Did Trump tell him
that.
to think? Did he say, "Oh, you're just a placeholder until I actually can find somebody"?
I don't know. You'd have to talk to Melania, because she would probably know about that. But no, he just wasn't a big player. This guy that Trump has tapped, he's kind of a big player. So we're going to talk about that. Plus, breaking news yesterday, Rex Tillerson, the former Secretary of State, not getting along with his former boss, President Trump. The Bush farewell, I thought we'd chat about, final farewell to Bush 41 as to whether all the plaudits and the acclaim for the president was amounted to credit where credit is due, or did it amount to, let's stick it to Trump, because by comparison, he wasn't quite the gentleman that
I knew
George
George
was.
Bush. George Bush was a friend of mine. He was no George Bush.
Something like that. That's right. Lloyd Benson's famous smackdown of poor
Quayle.
Dan Quayle,
By the way,
who couldn't spell potatoes.
I don't know if you saw this on Facebook. I saw this, and it's really interpretation. People were putting up pictures. Quayle was sitting sort of behind Bush, behind
Yeah, he
Trump.
was in like the second or third pew.
Yeah, and they looked. Well, I almost didn't recognize him. He looks older now.
It's funny.
But apparently
he got
was staring.
older, Ken.
I
don't get it.
I don't get that either. But people were writing captions like he's staring daggers at Bush. At Trump. It looks like he wants to punch him out.
Really?
That he looked kind of angry.
He was in a good position to garrote Trump, because if he had one of those wires,
like
you see in a James Bond or Godfather, he could have slipped it over and
garrote.
I think it would have made the headlines all over the world.
You're a little bit too familiar with garrotes.
Yeah, it's a problem, but I know all the terminology.
Sure
so those are the top stories. We've got our Moron of the Week feature. Just to tease it, our first moron candidate, it involves nudity and Oreo cookies. So you don't want to miss that. We're going to do Guess the Verdict. You're going to be the sole panelist here without Connor. In our Guess the Verdict feature, we got a dubious homicide sentence that Ken is going to guess about. And finally, in our Bizarro World segment, we have a DUI involving a driverless car, if you can believe it. You thought you were off the hook?
I know that,
you covered the story probably if you're KABC.
I heard that story.
So, top story, I think, has to be the progress on the Robert Mueller front. So what happens is when they cut these deals with these guys, like Michael Cohen, he says, okay, I lied, you got me, but I'm going to cooperate, so how about a little something for the effort, and I want a low sentence because I'm cooperating. So there's Michael Cohen, he's pled guilty twice now to lying. Then you've got Paul Manafort, who pled guilty to a bunch of financial crimes, but now Mueller says Paul's been lying ever since he cut the deal. And in fact, what he's been doing is been talking to Trump. And then General Flynn, who apparently is going to get no jail time because he's been so cooperative and so helpful. How has he helped? Well, we don't know because they redact, they black out all the juicy stuff in the sentencing memos. But what the hint is by Mueller is that he has been cooperating on some significant, prosecutorial efforts. And that
in other words, he sang like a pigeon, or
like a canary.
Sang like Joe Valachi. Remember?
Yeah.
Valachi, this goes way back, and this is,
but
singing.
we did, Mrs. Calabash. Oh, no, that was Jimmy Durante.
Jimmy Durante, right. Yeah.
But we don't know what he's been singing about, is the bottom line.
Yeah, we don't.
It's interesting that Flynn is just praised to the heights by Mueller, and so he's going to get a no jail time recommendation. Michael Cohen on the other hand, although he has thrown the president under the bus, who's apparently going to say, look, it couldn't have been clearer. The president directed me to break the campaign finance laws by arranging a private, secret, hush money thing with Stormy Daniels, and so that's going to enable Mueller, presumably, to go after Trump. And yet still, Cohen is such a bad guy, he's going to get a lot of prison time. And then right there in the middle is Paul Manafort. The interesting thing, Ken, I thought about the Manafort situation is if you look at the Wall Street Journal today and the New York Times today, you get totally different perspectives. What a difference a paper makes. If you read the Wall Street Journal, what it says is that Paul Manafort was in contact with Trump officials earlier this year in the administration, even though he told Mueller he had no communications with them. That apparently is the big fat lie that Manafort is guilty of. I mean, is that a hanging offense? You plead guilty to something, all these financial crimes 10 years ago in the Ukraine, and then you tell Mueller, oh, no, I'm not talking to Mr. Trump's people, but it turns out you are talking to him. So what's the big deal? I mean, who cares if he talks to Trump's people? Now, that was the headline.
Well, they could say a lie
Journal.
is a lie is a lie, but
I guess,
who knows what?
I guess. But if you look at the Wall Street, if you look at the New York Times, that is, the implication there is, as prosecutors say, Trump organized illegal payments, nude filing details Manafort's lies on several contacts, and it implies that there was communication with the Trump campaign about conspiring with the Kremlin operatives. So bottom line is we don't really know what the status of the Mueller investigation is. He's still...
Was it the same story, though, once you get past the headline? I mean, it's written by two different reporters and all of that.
Yeah, it's the same story.
I know enough about the newspaper business to get me in trouble. I used to work out of the Daily News building in Woodland Hills on behalf of KFWB many years ago, and the people who write the headlines sometimes have nothing to do with. They're not the reporters. Don't write the headlines.
Yeah,
so it's possible it went to an editor
who that's their only job is to write headlines.
Yeah, it might have gone to an editor who maybe didn't know enough about the story, or probably fake news bias,
or might have a bias. Exactly right. I know, for example, with op-ed pieces, I've submitted a few over the years, and I've talked to other people who submitted them, and it's very frustrating to the authors of op-ed pieces. They don't get to write the headlines, and sometimes the headlines that come out.
By the way, what I said is no reflection against the L.A. Daily News. It's just what I observed there, that different people write the headlines. The reporters don't write them.
Yeah, it seems
unless
like
it's
a disconnect sometimes. So the other big story is we've got a nominee by the president for Attorney General, not just interim Attorney General, this guy Matt Whitaker, but the real guy. And the real guy is really important because he's going to be the boss of Mueller, theoretically. He will decide if Mueller, who will come up with a report at some point, presumably, it may make the report public, because the Attorney General has the right not only to tell Mueller, no, you may not indict Mr. X, no, you may not subpoena Mrs.
Or as they
X.
call him now, Individual 1, right?
Right,
Individual
that's
1.
right, and everybody says, oh, we know it's Donald Trump. But also, the Attorney General, will, as the boss of Mueller, will decide whether that report sees the light of day. Now, talked in earlier shows about how, if by some chance a Trump appointee says, oh, this is an interesting report by Robert Mueller. It says Donald Trump killed 18 people and conspired with the Russians to steal the election. I'm not going to make this public. I don't think it's worthy of seeing the light of day. The Democrats who are going to run the House are going to subpoena it. Somebody inside Mueller's operation is going to leak it. So we're going to see it. But still, the selection of the Attorney General is important. And this guy, William Barr, he's got quite a pedigree. He was Attorney General in 1991 to 93, so the first couple of years of George Herbert Walker Bush administration. He had been Deputy Attorney General before that. He's 68 years old. Get this, he's got a master's in government and Chinese studies back in the 1970s. He was general counsel of Verizon and GTE Corp. But the problem is the Democrats are going to put up a fight in terms of confirmation because they want a commitment out of him that he is not going to hide the Mueller report.
And that he won't fire. I mean, he could fire him, couldn't he? Could he fire? Could he follow? Yes, he could.
He does. Under the law, he's supposed to have good cause. But, what's good cause? If he thinks that Mueller just strayed beyond his scope, theoretically, he could have a basis for firing him, but it's unlikely he could get away with that. Plus, it would just be such a firestorm.
But from what I read about him, he has a good rep.
Now he's really conservative, and as a matter of fact, he's pretty much down on Roe versus Wade. And so that's when that sinks into the public, that's going to cause a firestorm. He's against it. He thinks that the so-called right of privacy under the Constitution does not give a woman the right to have an abortion. That's Barr's personal opinion. And he's on record saying that. And so it's possible, maybe I'm overthinking this, but maybe Trump is seeing the selection of Barr as a way to reach out to his base, solidify his really conservative anti-abortion base, to say, look, it's like the end of Terminator 1, when Linda Hamilton says there's a storm a-coming. You did see Terminator 1, right, Ken?
I did not, but I know
Matt,
who the Terminator is.
Matt, are you believing this? How is it you've not seen the Terminator movies, all of them?
Because
you better have a good excuse. Stephanie doesn't like them, and so she said no.
No, you can't see that. She terminated me from seeing the Terminator movie. No, well, I know things about them, like I'll be back.
Like Schwarzenegger.
Did he say I'll be back in that one? I don't know.
Probably, yeah, he did for sure.
The Terminator jokes when he ran for governor, the Governor, and all that kind of stuff. So
to make a long story short, at the end of the movie, she knows that Skynet is going to take over the planet, and so she looks longingly into the sky, and she says, "There's
Skynet sounds like a satellite service that Rupert Murdoch wanted to buy."
So a young kid who takes her picture with his Polaroid for $5 says, "There's a storm brewing," and she says, "I know," or something meaningful.
I know.
Yeah,
like that.
That's Schwarzenegger.
Linda Hamilton.
The bottom line is, Trump can say to his people, "There's a storm a-coming. His name is Robert Mueller. He's coming after me. I need your help. You got to have my back. And one reason you should help me is because look who I've delivered as Attorney General. He hates Roe versus Wade." So that's my theory.
Could it be? I was going to say Trojan horse. I'm not sure that's an actual apt.
I don't know. As a Bruin, I went to UCLA. I just don't know.
Oh, Trojan horse. Yeah, Trojans. Yeah. Okay.
So, speaking of cabinet members, I know you were a big Rex Tillerson fan, Ken.
Oh yeah, me and Rex go way back.
Well, you probably bought Exxon gas.
Exxon gas. I had Exxon gas.
Oh my gosh! Could it get any uglier? I mean, Trump, you remember, fired him by tweet. How do you like that? You're the Secretary of State of the United States.
Well, he hated him apparently.
Yeah.
But he hired him originally. How'd that happen?
So yesterday, Tillerson is in Houston, giving a speech. And he says some bad things about Mr. Trump. He says he was undisciplined. Mr. Trump didn't like to read. He did not respect the limits of his office. Now, you know a little bit about Donald Trump. Ken, how do you think he would react to comments like that? Would he say, well, that Rex, what a guy, he's entitled to his opinion? Or would he say, and now I'm quoting from Donald Trump, Rex Tillerson didn't have the mental capacity needed. He was as dumb as a rock, and I couldn't get rid of him fast enough. He was lazy as hell. Now it's a whole new ball game. Great spirit of the Department of State. Very
best people,
stuff.
hiring the best people.
Something like that. Hey, when we come back, our first Moron of the Week candidate, again, it does involve nudity and Oreos. Stay with us on the Royal Oak Show.
We'll be back on CRN with the Royal Oak Show.
Were you scammed into signing a timeshare contract? And did you miss the part that said you have to pay for your great idea? Not only for the rest of your life, but when you're not here anymore, you get to pass this turkey onto your family for them to pay for the rest of their lives. Thanks, Dad. Don't burden your family down the road, and don't be stuck with expensive timeshare payments forever. Get out of your bad idea timeshare contract guaranteed, or pay nothing. Call Resort Release today and learn for free how their timeshare exit team can help you legally exit your timeshare contract. They've helped thousands of people, and they're A+ rated with a BBB. So if you feel scammed, get mad and get out of your expensive timeshare contract right now, guaranteed. Call NOW.
800-716-9903. 800-716-9903. 800-716-9903. That's 800-716-9903.
The smartest way for you to get the lowest prices on your plane tickets, domestic or international, is to call SmartFares first or last, but you've got to call us before you book your plane tickets. Fly anywhere in the world, fly anywhere in the U.S., and SmartFares can save you up to 75% on your plane tickets. We have the lowest airline ticket prices on over 500 airlines, and you've got a great 12-hour free cancellation window. Plus, with our live agent help, you can always get fast help and fast answers. So on your next trip, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, how about right now? Pick up your phone and call SmartFares, plus save up to 75% on your plane reservation. So call right now. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644.
The following ad contains shocking material. Listener discretion is advised. Is someone in your family playing a dangerous game of Russian roulette? Over 43,000 people die a year from drug overdose. 120 people a day. 5 people every hour. 1 person every 12 minutes. 88,000 people die every year from alcohol abuse. Over 240 people a day. 10 an hour. 1 person every 6 minutes. Somebody you know may be next. Learn how to help someone you love get away from the drugs, alcohol, and bad influences. With the FMLA, people can take a leave of absence from their job and still keep it. Call Quit Drugs 321 now at 800-378-3315, 800-378-3315, 800-378-3315. That's 800-378-3315.
Welcome back to the Royal Oak Show with our co-host Ken Jeffries, our millennial correspondent. AWOL this week, but he'll be back. Next week, Connor Oakes will be back. So, Ken, our Moron of the Week feature, of course, we have 2 morons we like to talk about, and we vote on the stupidest of the 2 candidates every week. And so here is candidate number 1. Byron, Illinois. Did you know there was a town called Byron, Illinois?
No, I know Byron Scott used to play for the Lakers, and there was Lord Byron, but...
yeah, well, that's true. Well, this is Byron, Illinois.
Byron, Illinois.
Illinois High School there in Byron. Administrators have suspended 10 football players, Ken, for stripping naked and running across the field with Oreo cookies between their buttocks. You'd have to really be a fan of those cookies to have any interest level.
You know what? I will never
this.
have an Oreo again. Oh, my God.
This is pretty disgusting. It's called the Oreo Run. The streaking incident, we're told, was voluntary and not related to hazing. The officials interviewed 30 players and all the coaches after this happened. It's not clear if the students were suspended from class, but I think we can nominate the guys that ran across the field naked with Oreos wedged in their buttocks as the first collective candidates as Moron of the Week.
Oh, my God.
They're going to be hard to beat, you know?
Could have been worse. Fig Newtons.
That's true. It's hard to be worse, but I think you're right. I think they're even worse.
Wow. Oh, my
gosh,
God.
You know, that'll teach me not to turn off the phone, but you may have heard I'm such a fan of the Twilight Zone TV show. That's my ringtone. So when I get a telephone call, it's Rod Serling calling from the grave.
Calling from the great beyond.
The great beyond, that's right. So we're just going to have to take that phone call later on. By the way, before we get to, I want to talk about John Kelly. I'm reading a book, and you're a former DJ. Maybe you knew these guys. I'm reading a book about the famous old KHJ Boss radio rock and roll station.
Yeah, I got to know, actually, I'm getting to know some of them a little bit. I go to these old-timey reunions.
Oh, cool.
On occasion.
So 1958 or so, Chuck Bloor, I think, revolutionized rock and roll radio with KFWB. They came in with color radio, the Seven Swinging Gentlemen, Bill Balance, and others.
I got to know him, too. I'll tell you about that.
Yeah,
that could be another story for another time.
I met him a time or two.
Very interesting guy.
Wonderful guy. We've lost him, of course, but super smart, great entertainer.
Okay, anyway.
So KFWB was number one, revolutionary rock and roll energy in Los Angeles. Then along comes KRLA, and they're fighting, and they were competing with them. And then the third one to come along, and they blew both of them out of the water. It was KHJ Radio in 1964-65. Ron Jacobs was a program director, and so I'm reading this book about it. And it's fascinating stuff. I knew Bill. I don't know if you knew Bill Pearl from KBC Radio.
Yes, I do.
So Bill Pearl was a rock and roll jock for KHJ
yes, he was.
In the early 70s. And according to this book, Ron Jacobs was kind of the brains behind the operation. But where I was headed with it, it was a sad note in the book. The two stars, like the morning and afternoon drive guys, were Real Don Steele and Robert W. Morgan, who were fantastic jocks, and they were on the scene for decades.
They were great.
And what I read was sad was that they both died of lung cancer within a year of each other, I think in 1998, 1997.
They were both on...
they were both about 19...
At that time, they were 60. On KRS 101, which was at that time the oldie station.
Yeah.
But they both... I think they... I know Morgan did.
But the glory years were the late 60s, and anybody who remembers that it was a magical time with three incredible rock and roll stations in the 60s. But what was sad to me was I assume they were both just gigantic smokers, because back then guys would just, smoke a couple of packs a day. And I think people in radio, you tell me if I'm wrong, they thought it helped their voice.
I don't know about that, but I do.
I
remember something. Peek behind the curtain later when KFWB went all news, and I was there for this. I was on the
March 1968.
Right, but I wasn't there. I got there in '86. But they were going to take the ashtray. There was a big our morning guy, Charlie Brailer, who was the voice of God. And Charlie was a great guy.
He was a big smoker too.
He was a smoker, and I think he died of heart trouble, something like that, or lung cancer, something. And the problem, that was he was upset. They wanted to, as part of the contract negotiations, I think, get rid of the smoke, make it a non-smoking building or something. And I could be wrong about this. It made him a strike issue. He was really upset. I'm going to go on strike. No, we didn't. And they put an ashtray outside.
Really? It's a different world.
It was very different.
When I've been with the same law firm since I got out of law school in the 70s, and at one point we were in an old building at 6th and Grand in downtown Los Angeles, and an older guy retires from the firm, so I move into his office, because, you like to move into a slightly bigger office. It smelled like an ashtray for 6 months. I mean, this guy would sit there with his coat on, his suit jacket and tie, smoking a cigarette. I mean, talk about it. The Don Draper era. I mean, he didn't have a martini and a woman on his lap like Don Draper did. But, boy, those days are absolutely gone. Hey, who else is gone? John Kelly, the chief of staff for President Trump. When we come back,
you could say he was smoked out of the White House.
I guess so. When we come back, we're going to talk about this. I mean, I guess, Ken, it's not a huge shock, because he was one of the guys quoted as saying the president's an idiot and so on. Probably didn't set well with the president. President can be a little...
Did he say a blanking moron? Who said that?
Thin-skinned about this kind of stuff. Yeah, he may have called him a blanking moron. So we're going to talk about John Kelly being out. We're going to talk about Heather Nauert, the Fox babe, who's now a Trump administration babe, being in at the United Nations.
Yeah.
So stick with us on the Royal Oak Show.
We'll be back on CRN with the Royal Oak Show. You're experiencing pain, back pain, shoulder, elbow, or hand pain from a sports injury? If so, schedule a visit with Dr. Michael Sheps, the leading expert in laser therapy for pain management. Call 310-873-4422 or go to drsheps.com. Experience Epic T, the breakthrough laser therapy system that Dr. Sheps developed to make you pain-free in less time. Laser therapy is a non-invasive, safe, and effective in-office procedure that penetrates deep into your skin without damaging the tissue. It perfectly targets areas of pain to promote fast, natural healing. Relax your muscles, ease muscle spasms, joint stiffness, and arthritis pain while increasing blood circulation. For over 25 years, Dr. Sheps has helped Olympic athletes and sports enthusiasts alike get back in the game. Schedule your visit with Dr. Sheps at his Brentwood office in California. Call 310-873-4422 or visit drsheps.com. That's DRSHEPS.com, 310-873-4422.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, all great writers. And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet. So make a free call to Page Publishing. Their expert staff can help you turn your book idea into a real book, a masterpiece that could someday make the bestseller list in hard copy and digitally all across the world. Page Publishing can help you completely take your idea for a book, write it, and publish it. So if you want to join the ranks of some of the most famous authors in the world, call now for a free information kit. Turn your book idea into publishing gold. Make a free call right now to Page Publishing.
800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. That's 800-378-3212.
Come to Angelo's and Vinci's Restaurante to see memorabilia of movie stars and theatrical magic right in downtown Fullerton, California. The Art of the Great Masters in an Italian town square complete with storefronts of old, Italian butchers and cheesemongers, fruit and wine vendors, seamstresses showing their wares, the romance of Romeo and Juliet. Find our mystical Room of the Moon, and don't forget King Kong, Dracula, Frankenstein, and who knows what awaits you in the wine cellar. Enjoy the great food. We hand stuff our pastas, roll each and every tortellini, bake our own bread, and make all of our sauces fresh from our private stock of Sicilian family recipes. Pasta to seafood, chicken to award-winning pizzas, tiramisu flown in from Rome. If you can't find something on our menu to tempt you, you don't like Italian food. Try our Sunday brunch, all you can eat, just $21.95. And Angelo's and Vinci's has been named the best Italian restaurant in Orange County 2 years in a row, and our owner has been named Restaurateur of the Year. Angelo's and Vinci's, Fullerton, California, 714-879-4022 or angelosandvinci's.com.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call myflightsearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call myflightsearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call myflightsearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call myflightsearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
Welcome back to the Royal Oak Show.
We're back.
Our co-host Ken Jeffries.
We're back.
So, I think our favorite feature, that thing you do, Tom Hanks. So, guess the verdict. It's time to guess the verdict. Are you up for this? Are you psyched up for this, Ken Jeffries?
Am I psyched for this?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Good. I'm going to give you 3 cases, and you get to guess how they turned out. Number 1, we're in Broward County, Florida, okay? The weather's beautiful, but 77-year-old man in Broward has killed his wife. He's been convicted of manslaughter, and he's facing up to 7 years in prison. And he says to the judge, "Oh, Your Honor, I was terribly depressed. It was all a mental thing, so just don't give me those 7 years in prison." Ken Jeffries, you, based on this limited set of facts...
And how old is he again?
77. Oh, good. You asked a question about facts that I did know the answer to. That's good. I like that because I don't know anything more other than what I told you. He's 77, convicted of manslaughter. He says he was depressed. What do you guess? Does he get 7 years in prison or something else or something less? Or what do you think?
Yeah, I think the judge gives him he killed his wife. I mean, hello.
It was a good guess, but it's wrong.
But of course it's wrong.
The judge sentenced him to watch the movie It's a Wonderful Life starring Jimmy Stewart and serve 30 days in jail.
Why?
Maybe he got to watch the movie while he was in jail.
The guy killed his wife.
Well, you can write a letter to the judge, Ken. Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's all the address you need.
Billy Graham, Minneapolis.
That's right.
Minnesota.
Good memory. I was going to find out if you were called there. Well, okay, so you're 0 for 1, but you got a chance to go 2 for 3. Case number 2. A Boston magazine is sued by a man who's described in an article as the worst sports announcer in Boston, who, according to the critic, had enrolled in a course for remedial speaking. Now, as a professional broadcaster for decades, Ken Jeffries, newsman, anchor, disc jockey, you've probably had an occasional misguided listener, critic, question your style.
Never, except for my bosses.
So would, you might sympathize with the announcer who sued. So he sued the critic and the magazine. And who do you think won this titanic lawsuit?
Magazine.
You're absolutely right.
First Amendment. The
court found the article was simply satire and ruled for the magazine.
Simply satire?
Yeah, simply satire.
Do we know who the announcer was?
I think it must have been Marv Alpert. I have no idea.
Marv Alpert.
I have no idea.
No. It certainly was not Vin Scully. We know that.
So, a third and final final case. Brevard County, California passes a regulation against skimpy beach attire like G-strings, thong bikinis, and dental floss. Now, first question before I give you the full story. What the hell is dental floss on a beach? Is that bathing attire?
Well, I think
you're a hip guy. I know you like to put a Speedo on and go down to Zuma Beach.
It's a very string bikini.
Okay, maybe you're right.
Could be Oreos, too.
The law,
when you think about it.
The law specifically bans men from appearing in public when their privates are in what the statute calls a discernibly turgid state.
Turgid?
Do I have to repeat it? Yes. Turgid state, okay? A nature-loving beachgoer goes to court to get an injunction stopping the enforcement of this law that says no G-strings, no thong bikinis, and no dental floss. So, Ken Jeffries, who wins this lawsuit? Is the injunction granted, or does the court say, sorry, pal, we have public nudity laws, and just, why don't you do the right thing? Who do you think won?
The beach, the guy, or the
right? The
guy.
I
think the guy won in a way because define turgid.
Exactly right. The injunction was granted because the law was too vague to be enforceable.
But then how
I'm going to define turgid for you off the air, okay? Because we don't want to get into specifics.
Yeah. What do you? Never. I don't want to know.
Hey. Folks, write in with your definitions of turgid, and we'll forward them along to Ken so that it'll work. It'll work fine. So John Kelly, Chief of Staff, out. And you know what's interesting to me is that in the past, the revolving door about Chief of Staff for the President of the United States, it's often been because of the staff warfare, people clawing to get to the top, trying to get favor. Remember Ronald Reagan? He's a 9-to-5 type president. He's kind of a hands-off guy. And so the people who were his warriors, the Chief of Staff, the big cabinet people, they would fight for primacy in positions. So there was
and Nancy.
Yeah, and Nancy's position.
Seriously, exactly. She had a lot of input.
Oh, my gosh. Mike Deaver was the keeper of the body. He was Nancy's big friend. James Baker, Donald Reagan switched jobs. Baker went from Chief of Staff to Treasury. Donald Reagan came in, and then he hung up on Nancy, and he got fired. And Ed Meese was always fighting with the liberals in the Reagan White House. But here in the Trump era, it seems like it's just you either please Donald Trump and are super loyal to him or you're not. And if you're not, then you're out of there. So it's not like John Kelly lost a political battle against some other guy clawing his way up to the top of the staff. He just lost in the battle for the heart and mind of Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, right.
Yeah. So, but I mean, for some time, what was it that supposedly Kelly said about Trump several months ago? Demeaned his intelligence, or
did he call him a blank moron too?
I think he may have said he was a moron or stupid, something like that.
Yeah, well, now today...
But it's surprising he lasted as long as he did, if that's true.
Yeah, I know. And, he was brought in to bring supposedly order out of the alleged chaos in the White House, I guess. But today, Trump, I think on the White House lawn, said something about Kelly was a great guy.
he always says that.
Now, what does that? Well, I don't know. What does that mean? No, because but sometimes
if he's leaving, it means Trump wants him gone, and so Trump can't really feel positive about him. He's just being pleasant.
Well, why didn't he say, I'm glad he's gone? I mean, it's like, with Tillerson, he said, I couldn't get rid of him fast enough.
Well, here's the principle that they say is operational here. Trump falls out of love with somebody, unlike Kim Jong-un, who he's in love with now. Good grief. The guy is like, Stalin-esque in his viciousness and his murderousness, and everybody knows it. And in order to do a deal, Trump says, literally, I'm in love with him. I really like the guy. We write great letters to each other. Excuse me? Anyway, I digress. What Trump does, apparently, is that he falls out of love with somebody, and he fires them, and then he publicly kind of makes nice with them so that they won't dump on him and make life miserable for him. But if they turn on him, like we talked about earlier in the show when Rex Tillerson yesterday in Houston criticized Trump, said, he's not that attentive, he doesn't like to read, he's not that smart. Right. Trump blasts away and hits him back 2 or 3 times harder. So I'm guessing what will happen here is just like with Omarosa, when she left, thank you for your service, you're wonderful, and then when she attacks Trump, he blasts her. Same thing with Kelly. He's going to say nice things about John Kelly, and then he's going to watch, and he's going to listen. And if Kelly says anything negative, then blammo.
Well, we'll see
Trump
also if Kelly writes a book.
Yeah, absolutely. He's had all this big, long military career. So here's the other companion personnel story that we wanted to chat about, and that's Heather Nauert. And it gets back to the loyalty issue. So Heather Nauert, you're a big Fox News watcher, so you remember Heather Nauert, pretty, blonde reporter / anchor for Fox News.
Yeah, she was an update anchor or something like that, I think.
Very conservative and very loyal to Donald Trump, and he picks up on this because he spends a lot of time watching cable, in particular Fox News. So he hires her as spokesperson for the Department of State under Tillerson. And people are kind of raising their eyebrows and scratching their heads and doing other things to their head because Heather Nauert has no background in diplomacy, foreign policy, the diplomatic corps, the whole thing, and yet she's supposed to be the spokesman to try to translate into plain English for Americans what's going on. I didn't follow her career, so I don't know if she fell on her face.
She said something about some kind of a faux pas regarding how we like Germany so much, and then she dropped in the phrase D-Day. Remember D-Day? It's Heather. We didn't fight with the Germans on D-Day.
Right. So now the news is Heather Nauert is going to replace Nikki Haley. She's going to be our ambassador to the United Nations, and people are saying, oh, "Wait a minute! It was strange enough when you were the spokesman for Rex Tillerson and then Mike Pompeo, but for him to appoint her as the UN ambassador, right. I mean, we had Adlai Stevenson during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Adlai Stevenson,
and this guy is Mr. Intellectual, and he was in sync politically with John Kennedy, so he was very liberal, but that was fine for that administration. But for Trump to pick her, it's kind of weird. It's almost as if Trump is kind of giving a big middle finger to the United Nations, like, you don't really matter that much. I don't like the fact that we pay our dues and a lot of blank hole countries don't pay their dues, and so I'm going to have this pretty blonde woman be the spokesman for the United States at the UN because it's just not that big a deal. I mean, it seems to me like that's kind of what's happening. Because I just can't imagine her really providing all that much value.
So can we get metaphorically taken to the cleaners at the UN because we have this inexperienced person there? Who knows?
Well, theoretically,
but Nikki Haley reportedly did a decent job at the UN, and she didn't have experience either. She was governor of South Carolina?
Yeah, we'll call it one of the Carolinas.
One of the Carolinas.
She was definitely governor of one of the Carolinas. I mean, I think she was a heavy-duty person in the sense that she was very smart.
Yeah, she was smart.
And as governor of a state and a prominent person, she wasn't just a governor. I think she really rose to the top in terms of her fellow governors and so on. I don't know. I mean, I'm being pretty harsh on Heather Nauert, but hopefully she'll blossom and do a wonderful job. But it just seems a little strange for somebody like that to get this big job.
Well, draining the swamp.
So I know you're
making the swamp. I don't know.
You're looking forward to the days when you can just go down to the Tesla dealer and say, I'd like a black and a white Tesla, because don't you like
me
the
and
idea?
Elon are like this. Okay.
Well, don't you like the idea of not having to drive a car? Just you get in the back seat and you tell Siri, okay, take me to Musso and Frank's for lunch. Isn't that what you want? Now, some people don't. I know some people say, doggone it, I love to drive. I've been driving all my life. Your friend Randy Cardoon, he's Mr. Car Guy.
Well, you're right.
Where's his car podcast going to go if everybody, if nobody's driving their car?
Right.
But, I mean, personally, I like the idea of someday being in a situation where I wouldn't have to drive. By the way, it is going to save 30,000 lives a year, because that's how many people die in auto accidents every year in America today, and that's how many people are going to live, because they estimate that there will be virtually no deaths, because the computers are a whole lot better at driving than we are. No offense to you.
Although they did have some deaths, I guess, with testing. I'm not sure.
They're going to kill a few people. They're going to kill a few people. Okay,
yeah.
But the number that will be killed from some sort of a glitch, the car sees a glint of the sun off of something and they think it's nothing, and it turns out to be grandma. Okay, it's going to happen, but they're going to be like 30 deaths instead of 30,000. So you're evading the question. You got to tell me, do you look forward, if it were economically feasible, a few years from now, and the dealer says to you, you can have the family truckster, which you can drive yourself, or you can have this one, same cost, it'll drive for you. Would you do it?
Sure, I would.
Good. So we're on the same page. So here's the story. There's a guy who got himself a Tesla, and he figured it was one of these autopilot deals where it literally does drive itself. I mean, it's not like the old story of where the guy buys the RV and he says, oh, it's got cruise control. And so he puts on cruise control and then he walks to the back to make a sandwich. And then, of course, everybody's dead, right? Because that's not how cruise control works, at least not how mine works.
Yeah,
it drifts a little. And then the next thing you know, you're in the ditch.
Yeah, you're dead. Yeah, you're kind of dead.
So, but autopilot for Tesla, theoretically, it works. And apparently, there was a guy, let's see if they give his name. Samak is his last name. It's in the Los Angeles Times. And so he's going along Highway 101 in Redwood City. It's 3:30 a.m. in the morning. He's very intoxicated. His car is going 70 miles an hour. The highway patrol guy is trying to get him to stop. He's got flashing lights and the siren, and the guy is like this. He's totally asleep because he's had a few too many to drink. But he's autopiloting. So you know how they stopped him? They got in front of him. They have the police cruiser drive in front of him, and then they slow down a little bit, and the really smart autopilot Tesla car realizes, oh, a highway patrolman is slowing down in front of me, I will slow down too, and it slows to a stop.
I'd like to know. I heard about this story, and my question is, how did they know that this Tesla had that feature?
How did the cops know that?
Yes.
I think because they saw the guy going like this. And the car was going straight.
I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's how they inferred it.
I heard
because
that
our
story.
law enforcement officers are very smart, and so they had deductive reasoning there. So the question is it fair for them to charge him, as they have, for DUI?
Yes.
To me, I don't know if it is yes. I mean, if it says autopilot, now, yes, the directions on the manual say you're supposed to keep your hands on the wheel. But what's the point of keeping your hands on the wheel if the damn car is driving itself up and down Highway 101?
The law says DWI, driving while impaired, right? Driving while intoxicated, or DWI.
But isn't that law from the buggy whip days when, if you didn't pay attention to your horse, then he'd take you into the ditch?
I think they still have a case.
Look, if Ted Kennedy can get away with Chappaquiddick, okay, if Ted Kennedy can serve no jail time after killing Mary Jo Kopechne on Chappaquiddick
allegedly,
Ridge, I say this guy, Mr. Samak, serves no time for his DUI.
So what did happen in that case? Is that still winding its way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just
because it's a fairly new story.
He's just been arrested. Yeah, absolutely. So there's no. We
don't know. In other words, we don't know yet.
No. You just read the LA Times, folks.
But I think they have a case against him because it's driving while intoxicated. And he was.
Well, see, that's the difference between us. You're a tough guy, you're a law and order guy, and I'm just...
Yeah, I'm a law and order guy, right.
I'm a bleeding heart, right.
Right, yeah, sure.
So speaking of tough people, this seems a little harsh. Now, I realize I'm a little right of center, so maybe I'm just being too harsh on her, but this woman is named Stephanie Kifowit. Stephanie Kifowit is a state representative from Illinois. And you know how politicians, they mix it up and there's a lot of antagonism. She has had an argument with one of her colleagues, Representative Peter Breen. During a debate about a bill for helping people who have suffered from this Legionella bacterium. I don't know if it's Legionnaire's disease or something. It's a state-run veterans home where there's this Legionella bacterium. It's killed or injured people. And so she wants to do one thing about it, and her colleague in the legislature legislature wants to do something else. So have you heard the rhetoric that she used criticizing her Republican fellow legislator, Ken?
No, I did not. But
well, I'm going to lay it on you.
I think we're going to hear it now.
Yeah, and you're going to tell me, please, what you think of this. I think maybe she's over the top.
A little bit over the top?
I would like to make him, meaning my Republican colleague, Peter Breen, I would like to make him a broth of Legionella and pump it into the water system of his loved ones so that they can be infected, they can be mistreated, they can sit and suffer by getting aspirin instead of being properly treated, and ultimately die. So Stephanie is calling for the death of Peter, her colleague in the legislature.
The empathy award. Yeah.
Maybe it's because I'm a Republican, but I think she's out of line. What do you think?
Yeah, I think she's one talk over the line. To quote Brewer and Shipley, 1965.
I think so, too. This is really, really harsh. She said later her comments were misinterpreted. How in the world?
Well, do you misinterpret that?
Yeah, how do you misinterpret that? She said, I quite clearly said I wanted him to imagine if it was your family. Hypothetically speaking, she ultimately apologized. When we come back, our second Moron of the Week candidate, and we will vote on who wins. Let's hope we don't have a tie on the Royal Oak Show.
We'll be back on CRN with the Royal Oak Show.
Hey, Lorraine, do you realize that your mother, my mother-in-law, Chef Maria, has been serving Las Vegas since 1949?
Yes, I do, Dennis. That's when she first met Howard Hughes, who fell in love with her cooking.
And in 1955, she opened her first restaurant on Fremont Street.
Yes, dear. And another great customer was Liberace.
Wow. Then in 1962, while Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack were causing global excitement on the Las Vegas Strip, your family opened their second restaurant.
And in 1972, Elvis Presley began electrifying Las Vegas audiences and eating in our restaurants.
You know, Lorraine, this is quite a town. There's only one Las Vegas.
And there's only one Bootlegger Italian Bistro.
Folks, when you're in Las Vegas, come visit us. We'll make you feel like you're part of our family.
The Bootlegger Italian Bistro, conveniently located at 7700 Las Vegas Boulevard, South Strip. Visit our website at www.bootleggerlasvegas.com.
Were you scammed into signing a timeshare contract? And did you miss the part that said you have to pay for your great idea? Not only for the rest of your life, but when you're not here anymore, you get to pass this turkey onto your family for them to pay for the rest of their lives. Thanks, Dad. Don't burden your family down the road, and don't be stuck with expensive timeshare payments forever. Get out of your bad idea timeshare contract guaranteed, or pay nothing. Call Resort Release today and learn for free how their timeshare exit team can help you legally exit your timeshare contract. They've helped thousands of people, and they're A+ rated with a BBB. So if you feel scammed, get mad and get out of your expensive timeshare contract right now, guaranteed. Call NOW.
800-716-9903. 800-716-9903. 800-716-9903. That's 800-716-9903.
The smartest way for you to get the lowest prices on your plane tickets, domestic or international, is to call SmartFares first or last, but you've got to call us before you book your plane tickets. Fly anywhere in the world, fly anywhere in the U.S., and SmartFares can save you up to 75% on your plane tickets. We have the lowest airline ticket prices on over 500 airlines, and you've got a great 12-hour free cancellation window. Plus, with our live agent help, you can always get fast help and fast answers. So on your next trip, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, how about right now? Pick up your phone and call SmartFares, plus save up to 75% on your plane reservation. So call right now. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644.
Our friend Mick Jagger. Gosh, it's nice of Mick to drop in.
Which reminds me, during the Trump,
live
Trump always uses "you can't always get what you want" during a campaign, which is very, very weird.
I wonder if he has to pay for that. I wonder if the Rolling Stones folks have said, "Are you kidding? We hate Trump. We're not going to let him play one of our songs."
But what a thing for his supporters. You can't always get what you want.
I think that's his way of saying, government should be limited. You shouldn't be looking for a handout.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe, I don't know. But it is interesting. A lot of rock and roll groups have objected generally when Republican candidates play their songs. I mean, I've seen reports of that several times.
Cease and desist letters and stuff like that.
So we got our second moron of the week candidate here. Wendy Thomas of Erie, Pennsylvania, faces a sentence of 18 to 36 years after pleading guilty to third-degree murder. Do you know what she did? Nope. She pled guilty to killing her boyfriend by crushing him under the weight of a roughly 300 pounds.
Oh!
Yeah, he only weighed 120 pounds. He's 44 years old. So she
were they in flagrante, or what is it? Were they having sex? I guess
she actually, first she stabbed him, then she hit him with a table leg, and then to finish off the job, Ken, she crushed him with 300 pounds of weight. Matt somehow thinks this is funny. I don't get it. I mean, to me, I'm trying to work through the grief. But Matt is, he sees the humor in this. Thomas was reportedly drunk and wanted to smoke crack when the pair got into an argument that ended in Butler's crushing death.
Literally. Yeah.
So who is the biggest moron of the week? The lady who crushed her boyfriend with her 300-pound weightage, or the football players who ran naked with Oreos wedged in their buttocks?
I'd love to say it's a tie. Now, if she had Oreos in her butt, no, never mind. I don't know. I'd say
I wouldn't be shocked if she did. I wouldn't be shocked if she had them anywhere and everywhere. Easy access.
I'll say it's the 300-pound lady.
I agree with you. We're going to go with that.
All right.
So Kevin Hart is not 300 pounds. He's probably about 100 pounds, but he is a titanic success. He's a world-famous, enormously successful comedian who was asked to host the Oscars this year. And what do you know? It's not going to happen.
He's not.
Homophobic tweets from several years ago, is that the deal?
Yeah. It'll come back to bite you. And the Academy, people are blasting the Academy again. Once again, you blew it, PR-wise.
Yeah.
They tried other things that didn't work, as far as public relations, and now they have this. And so...
now, I read some of the tweets, and they sounded pretty ugly. I mean...
Yeah, and also a past comedy routine or two, anti-gay...
you remember Richard Pryor took a lot of crap for being very anti-gay. I remember he had a famous Hollywood Bowl concert, and I think he was at the height of his fame, and it was really anti-gay. I mean, he was really negative homophobic stuff, but the climate was so different. The gay community hated the guy's guts because he was really vicious. There wasn't a lot of blowback against Richard Pryor. At that point, the rest of society didn't seem to mind that much, but I think this is different. Now, the weird part about the Kevin Hart story, Ken, the way I understand it is that the Academy went to Kevin Hart after the homophobic tweets surfaced, and they said, look, you got to apologize, dude. You got to apologize. And he said no. For whatever reason. He would not do it, and so the deal was off. So now he's not going to host the Oscars. A day later, he tweets out, and he says, okay, it's over, no hard feelings against the Academy, and I'm sorry, about the tweets and so on. In other words, he apologized, and when all he had to do to keep the job was apologize. Do you have any idea what the story is there?
No, but maybe I'm in line to host the Oscars. I have no idea.
I'm going to write a letter, Ken, supporting you. Finally, Ken, a man in England, Thomas Watson, is a hero in Essex, England. He put out a fire on a pier by peeing on it. The council called him for quick thinking tinkling. He said, the weather turned. We were literally the last people there. I looked at the fire. The wood was proper charring away. Is that how they talk in England? The wood was proper charring away, like white with an orange glow. Using my initiative, I decided to empty my bladder. The South End Borough Council spokesman said, whilst we have faith in our sprinkler system, we do thank this gentleman. All right.
Thanks.
Great job, Ken. See you next week. Have a great week, folks.
Enjoying